We'll begin this hour with 5-month-old strike by the Academic Staff Union of Universities and what seems like an unending face-off between the union and the government. And Arise News analyst Dr. Sam Amadi is here to actually look at the situation and its implications on the educational sector. Dr. Sam, the implications of the strike, one too many. 1986, 36 years ago, the very first ASU strike took place here in Nigeria, but 36 years after, strike option, that action by the union, it seems like it's not going away, and yet we're not getting the right solutions. Let's talk about the implication and how this has affected and is still affecting the growth of education in Nigeria.
Thank you very much. First, you have to know that it's like ASU is meant to strike, because from 1999 to today, we can only count 3 years or 4. 2012 and 2014 or so that ASU didn't strike. So only from 1999 when democracy came to today, 4 years out of that period was when there was no strike. So essentially ASU, and of course when ASU was formed, a year after, 2 years, so they had a first strike and they were banned, then banned again in 1992. So basically the question is, some people say must ASU strike, but then if you look at the reason ASU strikes, usually the same thing: salary, allowances, and failure to implement agreements. In 2009 agreements, what they are contesting. In 2002, they were also they went on strike because of failure to implement the agreement. So the question then is, what can't we find a solution that works? And there are various issues here. One is the impact on students. Essentially, Nigeria's education has basically, downgraded. If you look at top universities, degrees from Ghana are rated more than degrees from Nigeria, apart from maybe premier universities like maybe Bado and so on and so forth. When I was a graduate student, I do quarrel with university admission at Harvard, and they seem to privilege more of people from University of Legon. And right now I think it'll be worse, because if you have a university where 5 months shut down, the tendency is that when students resume, they will crash through. And so repeatedly, this devalues our degree. And again, the most important thing is that people talk about youth violence, cults, drug, and yahoo. Now, if you do a sociological analysis, it covers that some of these youth students pick these dangerous habits when they were out of school. Idle hands, and then politicians, of course, find them useful for all kinds of things. Exactly.
Elections.
So the social capital we have destroyed, that we now have youths that are incapable of both the civic responsibility of nation building and the intellectual aspect of it deficient, is the price we're going to pay even up to the next 2 decades, because these are the formative years, and even if a few of them go abroad and get better, most will be stuck here. So I think it's now becoming a matter of national security concern that the cause of this strike, we need to take a holistic look at them. Again, ASU says, if we get 2 demands, their own test platform, portal, UTAS, fully accepted, which the Minister of Labour said they are going through the process and certification, and then pay that allowance. Now, the big question here is, a federal government that is broke, we saw the report around the revenue of this country, and what we use more than our revenue to service debts alone. So the question is, realistically, except government shut down some of the operations, some of the waste, bite the bullet, reduce waste in public administration, and free money for education, they might struggle to meet with ASU's demand. And even if there's some kind of respite, down the line, in the next maybe 6 months, thereabout, or 1 year, the next government will inherit the same crisis. So it seems to me that there's now need for a national confab of a sort around education sector. When we are NAS leaders, I remember very well in the 1992, we had an academic reform program. We were saying declare emergency on education. Today we are still saying declare emergency.
There was an emergency declared on education by the Minister of Education, Adamu. I remember
in his first
tenure as Minister of Education. But one wonders, after that emergency was declared, what has changed really?
Have you seen any rigorous social science-based report about that emergency, to declare emergency does not simply mean we're declared. It means that the government puts all resources to examine the root cause of a crisis, develop real measures that address it. So a declaration of emergency is stop press. It's like, look, the fire is on the mountain. Government puts all resources. So yes, Adamu says so, but what changed in terms of policy? What changed in terms of funding? Part of ASU's concern, not just about the salaries emolument, is the collapse of university education in Nigeria. I'm a university teacher. I'm now a dean of another law school. I used to teach at another law school. You discover that the facilities for training, the journals, there's basically nothing of excellence in the universities today, because you talk about research, there's no support for research, both for academics and for students. You talk about access to journals, international journals. So look at the African rating of universities. Few Nigerian universities make it even up to 200 or 500 or 5,000 of global. So primarily, of course, our students are bright. I mean, some of our students who go to Nigerian universities end up becoming Harvard, just like one of your daughters.
My daughter, yeah.
So primarily we have smart students.
So it's not all too bad, because I was worried when you called University of Legon, as a reference point for admitting African students. We still have loads of Nigerians from this public universities who are performing brilliantly and are attending Stanford on scholarships, just like you mentioned. Even Harvard University.
That's a problem. Myself, I went to Harvard on scholarship. But that's not the point.
It's competition. It's competitive. It's not whether you have the money.
No, the point is that Nigerian students who go through the meal, the drudgery of university education here, are stronger when you go abroad.
Absolutely.
Your daughter will do far better than those other
the
students.
average American.
But the problem is that the system, you see, we are looking at the exceptional, those who made it through this hell. The point is the millions and the hundreds who are trapped. So your daughter and a few Nigerians who go abroad are exceptional. They make it. But the question is, we should have an education system that gives us good result for the majority. And that's what is failing. By the way, look at what JAMB is complaining. Look at the everyday, even some of the teachers we're talking about can't pass basic basic mathematics and English.
Particularly in Kaduna State or in some parts of the...
If you sack them, crisis. So we also see, you have to balance it. There's a growing teachers' power all over the world. Latin America, the teachers' union are a problem to government. Teachers' power. They refuse retraining, they refuse assessment, accreditation, and so it's two ways. You have to, ASU and the teachers themselves have to take more responsibility to improve quality of teaching and research, and also prudent management of resources that government gives. Some of the university vice chancellors are absolutely corrupt. They are wasting money,
generated revenue.
The taxes the students are paying, they're not doing well. So we need, this emergency is both to redefine the basis of university funding, maybe privatize a lot of them. People have argued, why should federal government take responsibility to fund all kinds of schools? For example, abroad, they give you granting aid based on performance, benchmark. So why should we be giving all universities the same amount, and they do no research, they do nothing, they sit back.
Absolutely.
And some of them are trading, some are contractors.
The money is not returned to government.
The federal government alone cannot, it's not sustainable.
You have
cannot
to, and then we should also allow
education.
people to pay fees that are appropriate to the university education, so that they can generate funds to finance. You see, something must give it.
Well, that's still very debatable.
No,
not with a minimum wage of 30,000.
University education is not
it's not for everyone.
It's not a necessity.
Technical education.
We should train people to enter to diverse.
Absolutely.
Even the university.
Education is a fundamental right.
Absolutely.
Do not forget that.
But even in the US and the Canadas, you have
Many
to pay
people
for
are not
college.
But there are grants, and in the good old days in Nigeria, here we had the Nigerian Students Loan Board.
We should have those things back.
Where are they?
We should have grants for scholarship, for merit, and for need, but we shouldn't allow people to pay in pittance. They're getting not education, nor the schools being funded. So my view is, you have to see education, university education, as something that consumes money, fund it, and then allow people to pay, and then give granting aid. Why should somebody like me, my daughter was really like before she left, she was paying less than 45,000, whereas her cell phone is probably around 400,000.
You're able to find.
No, you should pay well, then subsidize those who can pay.
The 2.1 million Nigerian students in federal universities can actually get a scholarship. How many scholarships are there out there?
They should create scholarship
for
the brightest and the needy.
Yes.
Dr. Sam Amadi, good place to leave the conversation. Thank you.